The parables spoken by Jesus and recorded by Matthew in chapter 13 and Mark in chapter 4 are obviously hugely important to Jesus' ministry, and I would contend that the parables themselves are an absolutely magisterial stroke of strategic and pedagogical genius. That is, in terms of strategizing Jesus' ministry and what's going on, and in terms of being very, very effective as teaching tools, they're magisterial. But they're a bit misunderstood. In Matthew 12, you have this unpardonable sin, which makes it so clear that the nation is committed to disbelief, that no matter what measure of proof they have. Jesus healed a man who was both blind and dumb. Isaiah says that when Messiah comes, he'll loose the tongue of the dumb, he'll open the eyes of the blind. And in the face of that, the people turned to the Pharisees and said, help us, this man isn't the son of David, right? Give us an excuse. And they came up with the Beelzebub thing, and they said, okay, good enough for us. What is often overlooked is that is the only parable he told publicly. Because Matthew suggests it, but Mark is explicit that he spoke the parable to the masses. But then Mark chapter 4 and verse 10 says, when he was alone, his disciples came to him and said, why do you speak this way? And Mark 8 and verse 33 says verse 34 says he spoke parables, but when they were alone, he explained the parables to his disciples. Now, frankly, I think that story was designed by Jesus strategically. He was wise as a serpent, and he was more or less portraying himself as innocuous, as harmless. I think it left people standing around saying, what is that all about? And that's why his disciples come to him privately and they say, what's going on? Why are you teaching this way? What's that about? Jesus says that the reason I'm preaching this way is because these people have demonstrated themselves to be exactly like Isaiah's generation, that hearing they will not hear, and seeing they will not see, and they will not understand. They have committed themselves to disbelief, and therefore it is folly, it is pearls before swine to keep giving them the truth. This is why I'm teaching this way, Jesus says, because to you it's given to know the kingdom of the heaven. To them it's not. And to those who have, I'm going to take away what they have. So this innocuous little story left people just standing, what in the world is that all about? But on the other hand, because I'm going to give you the interpretation, you're going to understand what's going on. And basically, I think what's going on is this, that those huge crowds not only tie the hands of Jesus' enemies, but those huge crowds totally confuse Jesus' disciples. And they're totally convinced we're on a roll here. This is going well. And I think the point of the parables is you need to know, gentlemen, to his apostles in private, you need to know this is not going nearly as well as you think. And though there are huge crowds, there are the Pharisees. They're the ones, that's the seed that fell on the road and the bird just plucked it away. They're clearly unbelievers. They never took root. But there's an awful lot of shallow and thorny soil out there, and it's going to take the angels to come and sort it all out. And this is not going to be an easy thing, and you're going to pay a dear price, and you need to cling to this kingdom hope in spite of it. So the parables are designed, on the one hand, to disarm the crowds, that is, to quiet the crowds. Jesus seems to be some sort of an innocuous little teller of very, very uninteresting stories. But on the other hand, it's a hugely important message that he has to bear to his disciples, and he does that by giving them the interpretation and further parables. So on the one hand, they were designed to teach. On the other hand, they were designed to confuse. And in so doing, Jesus, who has his steps have to be so circumspect, because his enemies are anxious to be done with him. And so Jesus, strategically wise as a serpent, begins to speak in parables at that stage of his ministry.